He doesn't fade people out, he detonates them. When Quentin Tarantino cuts an actor loose, it isn't a quiet exit. It's an explosion. Question. I'm not your slave, and you're not my master. You can't make me dance to your tune. I'm not. That's the energy. Tarantino doesn't do subtle. He'll defend an actor until his last breath, but betray him? He'll torch the bridge in front of the world. With Quentin, loyalty is cinematic, and so is betrayal. For over 3 decades, he's been shaping genre-bending masterpieces: Reservoir Dogs, Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastard. Every frame dripping with swagger, precision, and absolute control. His sets are temples. His casting, deliberate. And if the chemistry falters, he doesn't tweak it, he ejects it. Critics call him obsessive, brilliant, difficult, revolutionary. But beneath that brilliance lies a razor-thin line. Cross it, and you're not just cut from the film, you're erased from the myth. From Pulp Fiction to Jackie Brown to The Hateful Eight, Tarantino doesn't just write dialogue, he writes legend. But legends only work when the actors vibrate at his frequency. When they don't, sparks ignite, and the fallout is volcanic. He's collaborated with giants: Uma Thurman, Samuel L. Jackson, Christoph Waltz, Brad Pitt, but not everyone got invited back. Here are 6 actors Quentin Tarantino locked out of his universe, and the brutal reasons he never looked back. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly why he hated these stars. Lawrence Tierney. Lawrence Tierney was meant to be the tough veteran muscle in Reservoir Dogs. A stone-faced legend from Hollywood's noir era, he carried the kind of raw menace Quentin Tarantino craved. Casting him as Joe Cabot seemed perfect, until the cameras started rolling and chaos erupted. Behind the scenes, Tierney was a nightmare. Not in the glamorous diva sense, but in a volatile, unpredictable way. He'd forget lines, snap at crew members, and lock horns with Tarantino almost daily. One infamous blow-up saw him screaming at Quentin over blocking a scene. When Tierney stormed off set, Tarantino followed him outside and fired him on the spot. Later, Tarantino confessed, "It was like dealing with your senile uncle who's off his meds." Cast members backed him up. Michael Madsen admitted Tierney's presence warped the entire energy of the shoot. Every day became a gamble. Could they finish a scene before Tierney exploded? For Tarantino, just 29 and directing his very first feature, it was untenable. Precision and rhythm were his lifeblood, and Tierney threw both into chaos. Firing him wasn't just a business call. It was personal. Quentin had written the role for him. But once the set turned toxic, Tarantino emotionally cut him off long before production wrapped. Tierney never got another call. No cameos, no reconciliations, just silence. In Tarantino's world, that's the ultimate execution. No drama, no second chances, only distance. Even after Reservoir Dogs became a cult classic, Tarantino never invoked Tierney's name in interviews, never offered tributes, never shared anecdotes. It was as if Tierney had been erased from his cinematic history for crossing a line Quentin didn't draw in sand, but in concrete. And once you're on the wrong side of that concrete, there's no coming back. Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis. When Pulp Fiction blew the doors off Hollywood in 1994, it didn't just redefine cool, it resurrected careers. For Bruce Willis, it was nothing short of salvation. He had just stumbled through a streak of high-profile flops: Color of Night, Striking Distance, Hudson Hawk, films that had dulled his star power. Quentin Tarantino gave him a shot at redemption. But behind the curtain, the partnership was rocky. Tarantino treats his scripts like sacred scripture, every word, every beat locked in place. Willis, on the other hand, thrived on improvisation, his trademark swagger filling the room. That clash of styles created sparks, and not the kind that light up the screen. Crew members remember the tension clearly. Tarantino found Willis too self-aware, too unwilling to melt into the role. He wanted obedience. Willis brought ego. The contrast is telling. John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson became lifelong Tarantino favorites, woven into his cinematic family. Willis, he remained an outsider. No bonding dinners, no repeat casting calls. Even years later, Tarantino praises the Pulp Fiction ensemble but seems to circle carefully around Willis's name, never hostile, just erased. And for a director who builds legacies on loyalty, that silence speaks volumes. Willis, ever diplomatic, never fired back. He's never trashed Tarantino, but he's also never credited Pulp Fiction as the film that rebooted his career, something most actors would shout from rooftops. In the Tarantino universe, loyalty earns you immortality. Step out of rhythm, and you're gone. Willis shined in one unforgettable film, stole a handful of scenes, and then, just like that, vanished from Tarantino's world without a trace. George Clooney. George Clooney. On paper, Clooney and Quentin Tarantino should have been creative soulmates. They teamed up on From Dusk Till Dawn, that wild vampire crime mashup where Clooney landed his first big role after ER and Tarantino flexed his twisted imagination as both writer and co-star. The film became a cult classic. But their partnership never grew beyond that. And the reason wasn't whispered behind closed doors, it was said out loud. Years later, Tarantino dropped the bomb in an interview: George Clooney is not a movie star. No sarcasm. No subtlety. Just a blunt strike. And he didn't stop there. He doubled down, daring people to name any truly great Clooney films after the year 2000. Clooney didn't take it lying down. He shot back, irritated but measured, reminding Tarantino of Ocean's 11, Syriana, and Michael Clayton, films that were hardly small-time. Still, the respect between them was gone. Tarantino's words cut deep, and his silence afterward cut deeper. For Tarantino, it wasn't personal. It was principle. He's a purist, drawn to actors who vanish into their roles, not those who bring red carpet charm into every frame. To him, Clooney was Hollywood polish. Safe, bankable, slick. Not dangerous. Not raw. Not Tarantino's kind of actor. And so, after From Dusk Till Dawn, Clooney never showed up in another Tarantino project. Not a cameo, not a script, not even a rumor of a reunion. That absence said more than any interview could. Especially from a director who famously reuses the same actors across decades. Clooney moved forward, his career soared, his name etched in Oscars, directing credits, and blockbuster franchises. But in Tarantino's world, he became a ghost. When asked about him, Quentin barely flinches. No apology. No reflection. Just silence, laced with disdain. In Hollywood, being hated can still make you part of the story. Being dismissed, that's worse. Clooney wasn't just criticized by Tarantino. He was erased, cut out of the final reel. Spike Lee. Spike Lee. This wasn't just artistic friction, it was an all-out cultural firestorm. Two filmmaking giants clashing in public over race, responsibility, and who has the right to tell what story. Lee, never one to bite his tongue, went straight at Quentin Tarantino when Jackie Brown hit theaters in 1997. His issue? Tarantino's obsession with the N-word. I'm not against the word, I use it, Lee said. But Quentin is infatuated with it. What does he want? To be made an honorary black man. That wasn't a passing critique, it was a direct strike at Tarantino's entire storytelling style. Tarantino, in true Tarantino fashion, fired back, brash, unapologetic, and cutting. If Spike Lee can't appreciate Jackie Brown, then I'm sorry for him, he snapped. He has no right to tell any other artist what they can or cannot say. Then came the infamous headline-grabbing line, Spike needs to shut the F up. The rift only deepened. When Django Unchained premiered, Lee flat-out refused to watch it, calling it disrespectful to my ancestors. Tarantino dismissed him entirely, striking the cruelest blow. His problem is that I'm doing it better than he is. He's just mad because I'm making the black movies he wishes he could make. That wasn't disagreement, that was war. And war has no truce. No apologies. No reconciliation. Tarantino has worked with nearly every kind of actor, across every style, yet he has never reached toward Lee or his cinematic circle. To this day, their paths don't cross. No panels, no interviews, not even the faintest nod of mutual respect. And that single Tarantino quote, "He's just mad because I'm making the black movies he wishes he could make," did more than sting. It sealed the feud in stone. Not just offensive. Final. Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi helped ignite Quentin Tarantino's directing career. As Mr. Pink in Reservoir Dogs, he delivered one of the most unforgettable rants in indie film history. Sharp, witty, and charged with tension, it was the kind of performance that should have secured him a permanent seat in Tarantino's universe. But strangely, after that film, Buscemi faded from Tarantino's world as if erased from the director's casting board. Rumors spread. The most enduring theory, a now famous, tipping argument. In the opening scene, Buscemi's character refuses to tip waitresses, declaring, "They're just doing their job." It was hilarious, iconic, and perfectly in character. But whispers from crew members claimed the line wasn't entirely fiction. It may have been inspired by Buscemi himself. Allegedly, he had voiced similar views off-camera, and Tarantino didn't appreciate it. Years later, a Reddit thread recalled Tarantino joking that if Buscemi ever wanted back into one of his films, he'd have to play a waiter. The joke had teeth. That role never came. When asked why Buscemi never returned for Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill, Tarantino gave a cold shrug. Sometimes people get one shot. A stark contrast, considering how other Reservoir Dogs alums like Michael Madsen and Tim Roth became recurring favorites. Buscemi, however, was quietly cut off. He never complained publicly. Instead, he poured his energy into unforgettable work: Fargo, Boardwalk Empire, and dozens more. Still, fans couldn't help but notice. For a director who famously recycles his beloved actors, Tarantino's silence toward Buscemi spoke volumes. Buscemi himself once summed it up with polite detachment: "I haven't heard from Quentin in a long time, but I wish him well." No bitterness, no fight, just distance. In Tarantino's world, grudges don't always erupt in flames. Sometimes, they just fade quietly, until one name disappears from the credits forever. Warren Beatty. Warren Beatty. He almost became Bill. Not just any Bill, the Bill in Kill Bill. Quentin Tarantino wrote the role with him in mind, sculpting the character's poetic menace and tragic weight around Beatty's legendary cool. It was meant to be a cinematic comeback. But the dream died before a single frame was shot. Beatty and Tarantino met, brainstormed, and even sketched out the character together. But it didn't last. Creative control became the deal-breaker. Beatty, a director himself, wanted input, more than Tarantino could tolerate. He suggested edits, tonal shifts, even story tweaks. But Quentin wasn't writing a collaboration. He was conducting an opera of revenge. David Carradine, who eventually replaced Beatty, summed it up: Warren was trying to direct the director. And Quentin doesn't play that. The tension was quick, sharp, and final. Tarantino never trashed Beatty in public, but his silence spoke volumes. Asked about the casting change later, he only said, "It wasn't going to work. I needed someone who understood it wasn't their story." That single line revealed everything. For Tarantino, every scene, every word, every cut belongs to him. Beatty's suggestions weren't contributions, they were threats to authorship. And so the part slipped away, quietly handed to Carradine. No announcements, no drama, just replacement. Carradine later admitted Tarantino seemed lighter, almost liberated, after letting Beatty go. As for Beatty, he never complained, never made a statement, never showed bitterness. Just silence. He and Tarantino never worked together again, never shared a panel, never crossed paths. In an industry built on second chances and redemptive arcs, that kind of clean break is almost unheard of. In Tarantino's world, it isn't just about talent. It's about trust, loyalty, and total surrender to his vision. Step out of sync, and it doesn't matter how big your name is. You're gone. No rewrites. No reunions. Just silence. So, like and subscribe if you want more untold stories from behind the camera. And tell us in the comments, which Hollywood legend do you think deserves to be on this list?